Imagine if the Ice Age just never happened. No mile-thick glaciers slowly creeping across North America. No frozen tundras covering northern Europe. No massive ice sheets shaping the land we know today. It's a pretty wild thought, but let's think about it. The last major ice age, also known as the last glacial maximum, peaked around 20,000 years ago. At that time, giant ice sheets stretched all the way down into what's now the northern United States. But what if none of that ice ever formed in the first place? To start off, the most obvious thing is the temperature. Without the Ice Age, the Earth would have stayed much warmer overall. That means polar regions like Greenland and Antarctica might never have developed their thick ice caps. Instead of being icy wastelands, they could be covered in forests, grasslands, or even full ecosystems that we usually only see in temperate zones. Arctic wildlife as we know it, polar bears, Arctic foxes, seals might not exist at all. Their cold climate niches wouldn't be around, so they probably never would have evolved in the first place. Sea levels would also be completely different. During the last ice age, sea levels were over 300 feet lower than they are today because so much of the Earth's water was trapped in ice. If there had never been an ice age, all that water would have stayed in the oceans. That means the coastlines would be farther inland, and entire parts of the world we live on today would be underwater. Places like Florida, the Netherlands, Bangladesh, and even parts of New York City might just be gone. Coastal cities wouldn't exist as we know them. The shape of the land would be different too. Ice is heavy. When glaciers push across the land, they scrape and flatten the surface beneath them, carving valleys, shaping hills, and creating lakes. The Great Lakes in North America, those were carved out by glaciers. No Ice Age, no Great Lakes. Norway's deep fjords carved by glaciers over time would look totally different or maybe wouldn't even be there. A huge portion of the world's iconic landscapes were created by the movement of ice. Without it, Earth might look a lot smoother and maybe even less dramatic in some regions. And then there's the question of how life would have evolved. Ice ages didn't just change the land, they shaped life too. They forced animals and plants to migrate, adapt, or die off. In turn, that pushed evolution in new directions. For humans, it meant developing tools, shelters, and clothing to survive harsh winters. Without that kind of challenge, early humans might have had a totally different path. We might not have spread out across the globe the same way. Maybe certain populations would have stayed where it was warm and never moved north. That could have changed everything from cultures to languages to the entire timeline of human history. That's just scratching the surface of how different things might have been. The world without the Ice Age would be warmer, wetter, and possibly way less recognizable. And that's only the beginning. In the next part, we'll get into some of the scientific debates about whether the Ice Age happened exactly the way we think it did, or if some of the evidence might actually point to something else entirely. Now that we've pictured a world without the Ice Age, let's talk about something that makes this whole idea even more interesting. There's actually a debate among scientists, not about whether the Earth was cold at times, but about how much ice really shaped the planet. Some researchers fully support the classic idea that massive ice sheets rolled over continents and left behind all sorts of physical evidence, but others say, hold on, maybe we're not seeing the full picture. A big part of the traditional Ice Age story comes from landforms. Geologists look at things like U-shaped valleys, drumlins, and moraines. These are land features believed to be shaped by glaciers. They also point to glacial erratics, which are giant rocks found far from their original location, supposedly carried there by ice. But some scientists argue that water, not ice, could have done that too. In places like eastern Washington, there's a theory that catastrophic floods created some of the features we thought were caused by glaciers. The landscape, known as the channeled scablands, was once believed to be carved slowly by ice, but now we know it formed almost overnight from a massive flood caused by a bursting glacial lake. Then there's the ice core data, long cylinders of ice drilled from Antarctica and Greenland. These cores contain layers that trap tiny bits of ancient air, showing things like carbon dioxide levels and temperature shifts. They're like time capsules of Earth's climate. But here's where it gets tricky. Interpreting those layers isn't always straightforward. Some scientists question whether changes in the layers were caused by cold, icy climates or by other forces like volcanic activity, shifting ocean currents, or solar cycles. It's not that the cores are wrong, it's just that they might not tell the whole story on their own. And let's not forget tectonic activity. Earth's surface is constantly moving. Mountains rise, oceans spread, and entire continents shift around. Some researchers say that tectonic forces could have caused a lot of the same features we credit to glaciers. For example, if a valley looks like it was carved by ice, could it actually have been formed by fault movement or erosion over millions of years? The idea here isn't that ice ages never happened, it's more that they might not have happened exactly the way we've been told. Science is always evolving, and as new tools and data come in, old theories get challenged, even textbooks have changed over time. What was accepted in the 1970s might be totally different from what we think now. So when we talk about a world without an ice age, it opens the door to more than just a what-if scenario. It invites us to question how much of what we think we know about Earth's past is solid, and how much is still up for debate. In the next part, we'll take this further and look at how life, not just landscapes, could have taken completely different paths if the cold never came. If the ice age never happened, it wouldn't just change the shape of the land, it would completely change the way life evolved, including human life. The cold climate forced animals and early humans to adapt in ways that helped shape modern species. Without that push for survival in harsh, icy environments, evolution might have taken a totally different path. For example, many large mammals we know today, like woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths, were specially adapted for the ice age. They had thick fur, large bodies to conserve heat, and diets suited for the colder environments. Without an ice age, these animals might have never existed at all. Instead, the planet might have stayed dominated by species better suited for warmer climates, possibly more reptiles, insects, or jungle-adapted mammals. The colder regions wouldn't have developed the tundras and boreal forests we see now, and the ecosystems would have been completely different. Now think about humans. Our ancestors had to survive through extreme conditions during the last ice age, which peaked around 20,000 years ago. That meant building shelters, creating clothing, using fire effectively, and working together in small groups. All of that helped develop early tools, language, and even social systems. Without those challenges, maybe early humans wouldn't have had the same reasons to innovate so quickly. We might not have spread across the globe the same way. Migration routes were shaped by glacial coverage. When sea levels dropped because of the frozen water, it exposed land bridges like the one between Asia and North America. If the ice age never happened, many of those paths wouldn't have existed, and entire continents might have remained unpopulated for much longer. Agriculture also would have been affected. After the ice age ended, temperatures stabilized and large areas of land became perfect for farming. That shift, known as the Neolithic Revolution, changed everything. People stopped hunting and gathering and started planting crops, which led to villages, cities, and civilizations. Without the end of the ice age creating those fertile plains, farming might have started much later, or maybe not at all in some parts of the world. The Earth's climate also influences disease. Cold, dry environments help preserve bodies, but warmer, wetter ones allow bacteria and viruses to spread faster. In a world without an ice age, global health history might look a lot different. Some of the diseases that wiped out ancient populations could have evolved sooner or spread more quickly. In short, without that global freeze, the world would probably be greener and wetter, but maybe less advanced in terms of human development. We'd still be here, but who knows what we'd look like, how we'd live, or what kind of creatures we'd share the planet with. And that brings us to the final part, where we'll explore what the environment and modern world might be like today if the ice age never came. So what would the modern world actually look like if the ice age never happened? Well, to start with, coastlines would be completely different. During the ice age, so much water was trapped in glaciers that sea levels dropped by over 300 feet. When the glaciers melted, that water flowed back into the oceans, raising sea levels and flooding coastlines. Without that process, a lot more land would still be exposed today. Places that are underwater now, like parts of the North Sea or the Bering Strait, might still be dry land, connecting continents and creating entirely different maps. The weather patterns would also be nothing like what we know. Ice ages help regulate Earth's long-term climate by pushing cold air toward the equator and creating stable seasonal changes. Without that massive freeze and thaw cycle, weather systems might be more extreme and unpredictable. We could be looking at hotter tropics stretching further north and south, with fewer areas that experience regular seasons. The polar regions might still be chilly but not nearly as icy, which would mean less reflection of sunlight back into space. That change in sunlight absorption could have made Earth warmer overall. Glaciers also play a big role in shaping rivers and lakes. A lot of the world's most important freshwater sources, like the Great Lakes in North America or many rivers in Europe, were carved out by Glaciers. If those glaciers never existed, it's possible that many of our freshwater supplies would be smaller or not there at all. That could have changed where people settled, which cities were built, and how civilizations grew over time. Even mineral resources would be different. Glacial movements helped scrape and expose metal-rich rock formations, making it easier for humans to mine things like iron, copper, and gold. Without glaciers doing that work, early societies might have had a harder time accessing those materials, which could have slowed down the development of tools, buildings, and trade. Modern agriculture would be another major difference. The melting of glaciers after the Ice Age left behind nutrient-rich soil, perfect for growing crops. Without that, much of the land we now use for farming might have been less productive. Countries that depend on agriculture today might have looked completely different or struggled to develop large-scale farming at all. Finally, tourism, sports, and recreation tied to snow and ice, like skiing, snowboarding, or glacier hikes, probably wouldn't even exist. Some of the world's most visited natural wonders, like Norway's fjords or the glaciers in Alaska and Patagonia, wouldn't have formed at all. Landscapes would be smoother, flatter, and maybe less dramatic. So, yeah, if the Ice Age never happened, we'd be living on a very different planet. The land, the weather, the animals, even human life would all have taken a different path. It's wild to think that a few degrees of global cooling thousands of years ago ended up shaping almost everything we see around us today. Yeah, thanks for sticking around for this thought experiment. If you're into more mind-bending stuff like this, check out our playlist on hypothetical scenarios